In this video, I'm going to be ranking pre-med extracurriculars based on how good they are in the eyes of medical schools. I'll also be telling you stories from my personal experience and the experience of my friends. Collectively, we actually did all of these extracurriculars, so hopefully the stories I tell will give you a picture of what it's like to actually do those extracurriculars. The first extracurricular I'm going to talk about is being a medical scribe. And being a medical scribe is great because it gives you clinical experience, which is something that medical schools really like to see on an application. And that's because being a good student doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good doctor. And being a good student also isn't a good indicator that you're even going to like being a doctor. Medical schools want to see that you've been in a hospital setting and you actually were able to thrive there. Additionally, it's also good for you just to make sure that you actually like that setting and you want to be a doctor, because you don't want to spend money going to medical school and then end up in residency only to find out you don't actually like being in a hospital and you don't actually like working with patients. That's the idea behind clinical experience. So being a scribe gives you some clinical experience, but it's pretty mundane and pretty uninteresting in my opinion, because you're mostly typing on a computer. And I spend plenty of time taking notes seated and typing seated. For that reason, I want my extracurriculars to be a little bit more exciting. And another major drawback of being a medical scribe is the fact that so many students choose this route, which makes it less unique than some of these other options. For that reason, I'll put it in C tier. The second extracurricular I'm going to talk about is an EMT. And this extracurricular does not have the pitfalls of a medical scribe. However, it does have some different pitfalls, which I'll get to in a moment. One major benefit of being an EMT is the fact that it's very cool. You get to be on your feet, you get to drive ambulances, you get to interact with patients and get that same clinical experience that being a medical scribe offers, but you get to do it in a cooler way with lots of novel experiences in different places. I worked as an EMT personally, and while I was working as an EMT, I was able to work very strange hours, so I was able to sort of have shifts that were able to work around my schedule. I will note that you can overwork yourself as an EMT though, and that the job will probably not stop you from doing it, because I was able to work for 72 hours straight and no one even mentioned anything to me. No one questioned it. I was just able to sign up for the extra shifts, and it was very bad for my mental health. It was very bad for my sleep quality. I just felt terrible when the shift ended. But I made a lot of money and got a lot of hours of clinical experience, so I'll let you decide whether it was a good choice or not. The fact that it's such a cool job and the fact that it gets you that clinical experience would place it in S tier, but it does have one drawback, and that's it costs kind of a lot of money to get certified as an EMT, and it takes a moderate amount of time. My program only took 5 weeks, but it was accelerated. Most programs will take longer than that. So I will place it in A tier. Next on our list is phlebotomy. Phlebotomy gets you that clinical experience, and it also is a little bit cooler than being a medical scribe because you're on your feet and you're drawing blood, which could be great for some people who are actually want to be interacting with patients on a little bit of a deeper level than just taking notes on their charts. But it could also be a drawback just depending on how comfortable you are with blood. So this depends a little bit on you, but I personally would place it above medical scribing at B tier. It has the same drawbacks of being an EMT, costs a little bit of money to get certified and takes a little bit of time. It also has one other major plus side, which is that there's a lot more jobs as phlebotomists in different areas, whether you're in a rural area or a city, just because people need blood drawing for lab tests and at most university health centers. So that's another plus. It's just the fact that there's more job opportunities. Like I said, B tier for that one. Next on our list is research, and research is great on medical school applications because it demonstrates that you're able to read through scientific literature. This is a very important skill to have once you're a doctor and you're practicing, because you want to keep up to date on the latest research and scientific techniques that are relevant for your field. I will note, however, that clinical experience cannot be replaced by research, and it's absolutely important that you have something to fulfill that clinical experience area for the reasons I already mentioned. It's important to demonstrate to medical schools that you can thrive in a hospital setting and you like it there. So don't attempt to replace the clinical experience with research, but research is very important. So with that in mind, I will place research in B tier. It's a great thing to have on your application. It's not completely vital like clinical experience, but it is a nice boost to have. It also can give you some scholarships, like I was able to get a research scholarship, so that's another plus for it. So B tier for research. Next up is tutoring. I wouldn't really consider this an extracurricular because it's probably not going to help that much on your medical school application, but it's definitely a good thing to consider if you want to earn some extra money and study for the MCAT. I made 2 different categories for tutoring because it really depends on whether you've taken the MCAT or not, if research is a good extracurricular for you. Let me tell you about my specific situation right now to illustrate some points. So my general chemistry knowledge is a little bit rusty. I took it freshman year and I'm currently going into my junior year and I'm preparing to take the MCAT. I've taken all the pre-med requirements and I have taken basically, like I said, all the classes that are going to be on the MCAT. So now I'm entering that phase where I'm going to start studying for the MCAT. If you want to get paid while you're studying, tutoring is sort of like a way to do that. At University of Oregon, there's peer tutoring for general chemistry, and since I've taken that sequence and gotten pretty good grades, I got A's throughout the entire sequence, I'm qualified to be a peer tutor. One of the best ways to learn things is to teach them, and that's why tutoring is a great way to study for the MCAT. If, however, you've already taken the MCAT, tutoring is sort of not a great way to be spending your time because you could be spending time doing research, trying to get publications, or getting clinical experience and also earning money that way. So for that reason, post-MCAT tutoring, which I labeled as MCAT tutoring on this chart, is going to be in the F tier, and just regular tutoring before you've taken the MCAT, I'm going to put in C tier. It's a great way to earn some extra money and study for the MCAT, but it's not really going to boost your application that much in the eyes of the medical schools. Next up, we have a super cool extracurricular that I'm pursuing. I don't know any other pre-meds that are pursuing this extracurricular, not to say that there aren't any, but it is very cool, and that's why it's the only one that's going to go in S tier. Now, I will note that this isn't really clinical experience because you're not really interacting with patients in a hospital setting, and it doesn't fulfill any specific things that medical schools are looking for other than the fact that it's super unique. It also can demonstrate some traits that medical schools want to see in applicants, like being able to work under pressure, working in a team, communication skills. I also might be able to get a letter of rec for this extracurricular. And if you're wondering what it is, it's becoming a firefighter. Now, for some people, it's a career. Honestly, for most people, it's a career. But for me, it's an extracurricular. I'm going to talk about how I'm actually becoming a firefighter because it's not necessarily possible for everyone. It doesn't make sense for everyone. But if this opportunity exists where you are, you might want to consider it. So in Eugene, there's this program where you can become a volunteer firefighter. And the fire academy is free because you volunteer afterward. So they don't charge you any money. And after completing the academy, you work a 12-hour shift every week for 2 years following that at a minimum. And then you can leave if you want. Or you can pursue a career in fire. They usually hire out of this volunteer firefighter process to that actual fire station. So if that was something you're interested in, you could do that too. For me, I'm just going to volunteer for 2 years, graduate, hopefully go to medical school. Now, being a firefighter is super cool, like I said, because of those other things it fulfills, but you get to be in helicopters, you get to saw through cars to save people, you get to wear cool suits, you get to use the fire hose, you get to drive fire trucks. If you've ever been a kid and gone to a fire station, you know how cool fire stations are. You get to slide down the pole, so I don't really need to say any more. Super cool. A little bit unique, a little bit questionable if it's actually that important, but it's something I'm passionate about, and that's really what's important when it comes to these extracurriculars. You want to be unique and be able to talk about it in a way where you seem authentically passionate about the extracurriculars that you chose. Lastly, I'm going to talk about being a CNA. I have one friend who's a CNA, and she says she likes it. I think it's kind of similar to being an EMT in that it's a much cooler way to get your clinical experience than being a scribe or being a phlebotomist. And it's a little bit more novel, you do different stuff. You're not just drawing blood every single day. You're not just typing on a computer every single day. So I'll place it in B tier. It's kind of cool. You have to get certified, costs kind of a lot of money, sort of same drawbacks as phlebotomy and EMT, also similar upsides. But come on, being an EMT is cooler than being a phlebotomist or a CNA. I mean, let's be honest. So overall, this is all my rankings. If you want to see more pre-med content, you can subscribe or look at some of my other videos. You can follow me on my journey to become a firefighter too. I'm going to be posting videos as I complete this firefighter academy. So yeah, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know if you disagreed with any of these rankings, and I'll see you in another video.